Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, and in this video we're breaking down Welcome to Derry. Now that we've just done a big breakdown on episode 8, I thought we'd do a video focused solely on unpacking those ending scenes. This will cover some of the biggest questions around the finale and how it leads into things in both the past and future. Now the episode centers around Pennywise's rampage and it attempting to leave the town of Derry. However, the kids manage to place the cosmic dagger in a spot on the river that rebuilds the cage and keeps the creature contained. They're joined by Rich, who's journeyed from the spirit realm to help them rebuild the barrier. We end with Rich's funeral and a eulogy read out by Marge that's actually word for word a passage from the book. It's a really nice piece about friendship and love and just kind of something that I think Muschietti regrets not including in those original films. So it works great here. Now it's at this point that I want to talk about our first major ending moment. Dick sits down and comforts Rich's parents by telling them he's standing right behind them. He'll be with them forever, and it's a clear example of Dick finally embracing what his powers could be used for. Though he'd use them for positive means like stopping Pennywise on the lake or tracking the kids with a dagger, it was always kind of at the behest of someone else. It'd gotten to the point that the army had weaponized his gifts and were going to use them to destroy the country. However, now he's using his powers in a positive way to aid others. He's finally become the man that we know from The Shining, and he announces to Leroy he's got a job at a hotel where he'll be overlooking things in the kitchen. How bad can it be? Pretty fucking bad, mate. But no, we know from King's work that Dick goes to work at the Overlook where he staffs the kitchen as a cook. One fateful day, Dick's introduced to Danny Torrance, whose family are going to be caretakers for the winter. We all know how that goes, but Dick ends up taking his winter break, which is when he gets a cry for help from Danny. The Dick we met at the start of the season would have likely left him to rot, but Dick makes an extremely long journey back to the hotel. I'm not even kidding, like if you watch the movie, he travels for about half of it and goes from location to location. Now in the film, Dick gets killed, but the book gives us a more positive outcome. Dick, Wendy and Danny drive off in the snow caddy and they make it away from the hotel. In the book, the hotel's destroyed when the boiler explodes, whereas in the film, it's still left standing. Danny then goes through a similar thing to Dick where the spirits get too much and he hits the bottle hard. While this is going on, a vampiric group known as the True Knot are traveling the country, feasting on psychic children. Much like Pennywise, they primarily target kids and relish killing them in horrendous ways. The torture causes them to produce steam, which the vampires suck in order to stay young. Due to Wi-Fi, internet signals, 5G, that sort of thing, it's not that in the book because it's like years ago, but that sort of stuff, steam's been dulled throughout the world and people are just kind of not as psychic as they used to be. However, there comes an anomaly in the form of Abra, who's one of the most powerful psychics in the world. This will keep the tribe alive for centuries, and in the book they describe her as being like a cow that they can just milk and stay young for quite a long time, which will involve lots of torture. Now Danny initially refuses to help her, but Dick brings up the costs he had to pay to help Danny. And thus, this inspires Danny to do the right thing and stand with Abra against the True Knot. In the book, they fight the final member Rose on the grounds of the destroyed Overlook, whereas in the movie, it is still standing. Danny blows the boiler just like how his father did in the book, and it finally shuts down the hotel for good. So all of the things Dick experienced here kind of go on to save more innocent lives against the forces of evil. Though they kind of retcon Dick's involvement in the story of Derry, I just love the way it fleshes out things beyond it. The Shining, of course, is an incredible horror, and the film ends with Jack Torrance in a photo at the Independence Day Ball in 1921. How can that be? Well, there have been lots of questions and theories about this over the years. During the film, Grady says that Torrance has always been at the hotel, and he should know as he's always been there as well. Because of this, people are theorizing, including me, that evil is eternal and it isn't necessarily bound to the rules of time like the rest of us. This actually explains how ghosts and entities can appear throughout the movie. Things like Jack walking into the ball during the midpoint is because time doesn't work in the way that we perceive it. This also ties into an idea in physics that all time is happening all together at once. The past, present and future are all consequential of each other and therefore must exist in some form simultaneously in order for the other to exist. Everything is cause and effect in how we perceive things. However, because the universe is based on cause and effect, then the future must already exist because its outcome is happening now. We in the present are a result of the past, and therefore everything has to exist together in order for the future to happen, the present to be here, and the past to be there as well. There is a theory as well that higher life forms would be able to perceive time beyond the narrow way that we do. This is something that's been shown in lots of fictional stories, and the most famous one that always springs to mind for me is Dr. Manhattan. Now, from what's said in the series, this is also the case with Pennywise. It actually demonstrates at the start of episode 8 how it's able to peer into the future and even create forms based around this. At one point, we see Pennywise taking on the form of a woman who looks out of a shop window at the start. This is Katie Lundman, who played Pennywise's victim, Betty Ripsom, in 1989. She also played one of the attackers at the start of chapter 2. So Pennywise is appearing as the character even though they haven't been born yet. This also ties into what Pennywise says to Marge on the ice. Revealing that one day she'll be named Margaret Tozier, he talks about the son Richie that she'll end up having. Pennywise even pulls out the missing poster that he taunts Richie with in 1989. The fact Richie hasn't been born yet, and yet Pennywise is able to produce this poster from the future with his face on it, highlights it can indeed view all time at once. The Deadlights are an infinite being that aren't bound to the rules of time and space. This is why the creature's able to teleport, appear and disappear at will, and also do things like the poster. Now, when one sees time as that, then you can understand why they could also view their death as their birth. We all came from nothing, we didn't exist at one point, and then we were born. We will also die one day as well, spoiler alert. Well, maybe not me, because I'd like to think there's like a 1 in 5 chance I just keep on going. But yeah, there's 2 periods throughout time in which we don't exist. That is before our birth and after our death. Now, Pennywise just views these times where it doesn't exist as being exactly the same. Because it isn't a physical being with a physical body and is more just a 4th dimensional being, there's simply no difference to it. So, it could view the moment of its death as its birth if it's viewing things from that point and then looking backwards. This is something that Marge touches upon as well, and it's also how the show and book operate. If you've ever read the book, then you'll know we constantly jump backwards and forwards through time from scene to scene. We read the Losers Club entering the town as adults and then jump back and forth between the past and future as they encounter things. Even the final battle with the Ritual of Chud happens side by side in both the past and present. It's something that chapter 2 kind of brings across as well, and we get these odd scenes like the bunker where we jump back and forth between the kids and adults in that same scene. But yeah, the whole book is exactly like that. There's actually a passage in the book that I think also sums it up perfectly. This scene goes down when Ben journeys back to the library as an adult, and the experience blurs the lines between the past and present. The force was not physical. Not like a shot to the jaw or a slap. It was more akin to that queer feeling of time doubling back on itself that people call, for want of a better term, déjà vu. Ben had that feeling before, but it had never struck him with such disorientating power. For the moment or two he stood inside the door, he felt literally lost in time. Not really sure how old he was. Was he 38 or 11? Now, we also know this structure is going to be coming across to the show as well. Season 2 will be set in 1935, with Season 3 taking place in 1908. Because of this, I think that this opens a lot of possibilities, and we'll talk about them all after a quick word from our sponsors. Okay, so if you're into collecting stuff, then you definitely need to check out the ultimate platform for collectors like us. That is Whatnot. As I'm sure you can see from all the stuff behind me in the videos, like I'm into die-cast cars, books, comics, Funkos, and a lot of different nerdy things. If you are as well, then Whatnot is absolutely perfect for you. If you're new to it, Whatnot's a live stream shopping app where you can buy, sell, and auction almost anything. They host seller-run streams where you can check out the sellers, items, ask questions, chat to people in the community, and bid for it all from the comfort of your phone. I've been going on Whatnot recently, checking out lots of stuff related to Welcome to Derry, and you can easily search for specialist live streams for exactly what you're interested in. You can also set notifications for the streams as well. For example, I found this seller who was selling Funko Pops, and in addition to that, also came across one who was not only selling them, but also mini GT cars as well. So like 2 things that are absolutely perfect for me. The auction let me chat to them and ask questions and just get to know the products and the seller themselves before committing to buying it. I know a lot of you guys are getting back into Pokemon cards like me as well, and they do lots of live openings and auctions. Bidding is super easy and you just swipe in and then win. Huge thank you to everyone who signed up using my code and has added to my credit, and if you want to add to your own credit, guess what? Right now, Whatnot are giving everyone who uses my code or link in the description $15 free to spend if you're in the US and £10 free to spend if you're in the UK. This is my holiday gift to you just in time for Christmas, and again, use my QR code or click the link in the description and you'll get $15 if you're in the US or £10 if you're in the UK. So scan it because I want to buy some more stuff. Thanks for watching the advert as well, really appreciate you watching through it, and yeah, I'll see you in the streams. Okay, so yeah, Pennywise is going to take you back to the past to play some shitty games that suck ass, but we are going back to the past for the other seasons, and there we'll see other warriors try and stop the creature. Now, why I say try is because Pennywise believes that if it stops something in the past, it can stop its death in the future. This is why it targeted Marge. However, in turn, this only ends up setting off a chain of events in which she fights the creature, Rich dies, and she then names her son after the character who ended up saving her life. And look, I'm not crying, you're crying. Anyway, because of this, I think it spells out exactly what Pennywise's plan is in the past. Now obviously, if you've seen it chapter 1, then you know that Will's killed by the creature. This is done in a fire, and later it taunts Mike with how it's reported. I've pointed it out loads of times, my editors are definitely sick of it, but yeah, the fire in the house looks like the word it, and thus the creature was behind the crime. It also said, "You'll burn too," when grabbing Will at the lake. So clearly it holds a grudge and manages to get one of the parents of the Losers Club. I did even wonder if it taunted Bev's mother so much that she ended up taking her own life, but that's all just a theory, and yeah, we are getting ahead of ourselves. Anyway, I feel like because Pennywise failed to kill Marge and Will, aka Mike's dad, that it might go further back in time to try and kill the grandparents of the Losers Club, or the parents of the kids here. Just in the same way that Will was killed in a fire caused by the creature, I wonder if Lily's dad died because he stood up to it in the past. I feel like season 2 will have us meeting Mr. Bainbridge as a child and then watching him stand up to the creature. Pennywise will already know how much Lily leads to its demise and thus possibly go after her father next. In my opinion, we'll of course get him pushing him in the pickle machine, much in the same way that he killed Will in the fire. So yeah, that's just a theory, but I think it's quite likely if we're going back there. Now the 1935 cycle is something that we know a number of things about because of the book, in that the Bradley Gang massacre and the fire at the Blackspot actually happened around the same time. The kids' stuff in the book is set in the 50s, and thus when Muschietti moved things forward to the 80s, he had a whole 27-year cycle to add. So he created this one and shifted the Blackspot fire to align with the civil rights movement. This allowed him to add the stuff in with Hank and so on and so forth. However, the Bradley Gang massacre will be the main one that ends the hibernation spell in the past. During that, a gang of outlaws rolled into town hoping to buy bullets. The gun owner took the order but instantly recognized them and told them to come back and collect it later. When they arrived, they were met with the townsfolk who just started blasting. They'd all armed up and gunned down the gang in the street. Because of that, I think we'll likely see the gang as some of the main characters in the season. We could get to know them, maybe even find out they've just been framed like Hank, and then watch as they're all brutally killed. Mrs. Kersh is also a massive part of this timeline as well. She was working at Juniper Hill and taking kids to meet up with a clown in the basement. Yay, great worker. I feel like we'll see what the creature said to her when she opened the door, and she'll also witness the creature being defeated. She did talk about how a dark cloud or like a dark shadow sent him away, which I think she'll be witness to. Pennywise being able to see all time at once also explains why he didn't kill her at the Blackspot or in 1935. It knows it needs her form to taunt Bev in the future, and thus lets her live to become a sweet old lady that goes to Bev and says something mental as she's just seen her mother's body. What a lovely woman. Kersh going through these cycles though also explains why she knows that no one really dies in Derry. She's lived in the 1908 cycle, 1935 one, 1960s one, and also the one in the 80s. So she's seen time and time again the returning characters and people throughout time who've gone and come back. She's probably even seen Pennywise take the form of people that she'd later meet down the line in her life. They could do something great where they bring Lilly into the 30s to taunt her, and then she meets her later down the line. And this could all explain why she ends up going mental. Kersh is such an interesting character though, and I think we could get the photo book in the attic expanded massively upon. We could also see her life with Stan and how he slowly lost his grip to the Derry curse. I'd also love to see a younger Rose, and then what Shaw was up to around this time as well. Though we were wrong in thinking that Pennywise could cause the Cuban Missile Crisis, it's possible that this could lay the groundwork for World War II. Shaw could be a young soldier around this time and realise what the creature could lead to. Around this period, we also know the country was going through the Great Depression. Kersh mentioned it to Lily at the diner, and it's something that was brought up in the book as well. Basically says the same thing she did in the episode about how kids were thought to have run away for a better life. But yeah, economically the country's destroyed and paying like 2 cents for gas. Ridiculous prices. Now, though we've been talking heavily about the past, we also have to look to the future. Rose sells her farm to Leroy and Charlotte and appoints them as the guardians of Derry. And in chapter 1, we saw the farm and it was a little clue they'd take over the reins here. This also explains why Mike feels like he has to remain behind in Derry while the other losers leave the town and go on to live happy lives. In the book, he's referred to as the lighthouse keeper, and he's someone who keeps watch over the city. The farm will act as that lookout for now, and from here Leroy will raise Mike in the wake of Will's death. His grandfather, being part of his crusade, even gets a little nod in chapter 2 when we join Mike listening to the police reports. His funeral leaflet is pinned on the radio where Mike listens out for the attacks from Pennywise. So having it here shows, even in death, how he's still inspiring Mike. Now, like I said, we know what happens to Will, and I did think that we knew what happened to Veronica. Come the events of the Losers Club cycle, she is dead in both the book and movie. Her voice is what Bev hears coming from the pipes, and both the book and film list her name specifically. The book even says the following. I'll not do the American accent again. Ben had heard rumours of Frankie or Freddy and his gum stick long before the kid had vaulted into the limelight by discovering the body of Veronica Grogan. And it then follows it up later in the passage with, Veronica Grogan had been in the 4th grade at the Neobold Street Church School, which was run by people Ben's mothers called the Christers. She was buried on what would have been her 10th birthday. I did do the voice again, I'm sorry, I broke my promise, but I still love you and I promise that, so I'll hit the thumbs up. This is then followed up by her calling from the pipes along with Maddie Clements, which is also said in the movie. So here's one of 2 options. Either Muschietti is changing his canon, which, let's be honest, prequels often tend to do. Or it is possible that Ronnie is Mike's mother and Pennywise got them both in the fire. It then could simply just call out from the sewers pretending to be her. Doesn't explain the book, doesn't rewrite that, but look, the movies have changed stuff quite a lot, broke canon quite a lot. It's happening in the 80s and stuff like that when they're kids. Just move on. We're moving on. It's a different canon. But for now, she at least gets a happy ending and rides out of Derry along with her father. Speaking of fathers, we then cut to Mrs. Kersh at Juniper Hill in what's a full circle moment. She's still talking about her dad's death and how the wolves have got him. She's also gone from feeding the kids to Pennywise here to now being one of its patients. This is a motif that often ends the cycle, and Henry Bowers also ended up locked up at Juniper Hill. We then see the orderlies put on a record, and it's the same one that Lilly heard in the attic. It's also the same one that Bev heard when she came across a version of Kersh in chapter 2, so it's very much a full circle moment. Cutting to October 1988, this is the same month that Georgie died. This is the beginning of the brand new cycle, and we see an older Kersh painting a picture of her hand holding her father's wrist. She then hears a scream and wanders out into the corridor, which is when she goes to Elfrida Marsh's room. Here she's taken her own life, and we see both Albert and Bev. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I do have a theory that Pennywise taunted Elfrida, much in the same way that it taunted Marge and Will. It's possible it did this to get to Bev, but let me know all your thoughts below. Either way, we finally get it explained why it took the form of Kersh when Bev rolled into Derry. This is one of the most traumatic moments of Bev's life, and her being there cements her as a person around this. Alvin shoves Bev off, highlighting the abuse she'll be going through at home, and Kersh says,
No one who dies here ever really dies.
No one who dies here ever really dies.
No one who dies here ever really dies.
This is exactly why Pennywise chooses this form with her. Upon approaching the door in chapter 2, we can see that it has the name Marsh there. However, Bev knocks and it then changes to Kersh. Kersh then tells her that her father's died before later saying the line about how no one dies here. Bev moved away from here in '89 and she had no idea that her dad died. So Kersh has been present at the 2 times that Bev learned about the death of her parents. Though she doesn't remember who this woman is, I think subconsciously she would have in fact remembered her. This was all done to rattle her. It also speaks to the tragedy of Kersh as well. Here is a girl who had her father taken by it, and then she spent the rest of her life trying to find him again. She led a young girl to her death just to catch a glimpse of him, and later orchestrate the deaths of all the people at the Blackspot to try and see him once more. She was beaten and abused by her husband Stan, and now will die at the asylum, still desperately pining for her father, only to be used by it to torment another girl who's just lost a parent. Ingrid lost her father, which completely destroyed her life, and she's going through a similar trauma to what Bev is here, which is such a devastating moment. But excellent as well in terms of storytelling. I think in the end, Muschietti brilliantly fills in a lot of holes that take the story beyond King's work. We then cut to the It Welcome to Derry Chapter 1 title, which of course plays off the end of It Chapter 1. That was also a reveal there as well, because they didn't tell us it was a Chapter 1 before we went into the film, and yeah, it's just nice seeing that here. Let's go to Season 2. But yeah, that's probably a couple of years away, and in the meantime, I'd of course love to hear your thoughts on this one, and we also still have our merch inspired by the show at the store below. We've got our December sale on right now, and right off the bat, you'll get 10% off and then more discounts for the more shirts you buy. If not though, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, and what you think of the show, and what you think will happen next. If you want to follow us on Instagram as well, and keep up to date with what we're doing, then make sure you check us out at Heavy Spoilers. Did you know as well that members of the channel also get early access to videos, and if you click the join button you'll get at least one breakdown a week before anyone else. It costs just 99 cents a month, and we've tried to set it where hopefully it's not a lot to you, but if a lot of you do it, it will mean a lot to us. Now if you want something else to watch, guess what? Loads of It videos. We've milked it dry at this point. I think this might be the last video we do for a while on it, but we are doing It Chapter 2 coming very, very soon. We're also moving on to The Shining, then doing Doctor Sleep, and possibly something else. I don't want to do The Dark Tower, mate. It's a bad movie, but if there's a lot of stuff to talk about around it, I might go back to it. But yeah, with that out of the way, thank you for watching this video. I've been your host, Paul. You've been the best, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Peace.